Pretty bad news here, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, we have so many players missing practice that it is going to be damn near impossible for me to come up with our flex rankings for tomorrow. Obviously, I'll keep on updating the rankings on the site every chance that we get. But let me just give you the most updated report, because I'd say if you have anybody playing in this Thursday game, you probably need to go ahead and get them in there, because you really need to, play it safe with everything going on. You have no DK Metcalf, no Kenneth Walker at practice on Thursday. I have DK Metcalf on my team. Absolutely brutal. Do you have, let's see who else missing practice. Ladd McConkey limited again on Thursday. We had a report earlier in the day saying Ladd is actually a real threat to potentially miss this week. Dallas Goedert doesn't practice again on Thursday. Dallas Goedert probably is not going to play. Devonta Smith gets in a full practice. Thank God for my team. I'm definitely going to need him, especially if we freaking have to deal with no Jamar Chase. I need to win this week so I get a bye week. I need to win this week to get a bye. And yes, Jamar Chase is limited in practice, so it is going to be a tough spot. But I'm going to start Devonta Smith for sure, but no Dallas Goedert with my own team. CeeDee Lamb doesn't practice on Thursday. Obviously, a concern. Going over to Mike Evans, Bucky Irving. Neither practice on Thursday. A concern. Jacoby Myers, Aiden O'Connell, Zamir White don't practice on Thursday. Breece Hall doesn't practice on Thursday. Cedric Tillman doesn't practice on Thursday. Keon Coleman and Dalton Kincaid are limited. And they're telling us Lamb's expecting to play Monday. But, I mean, here we have no DJ Moore, no DeAndre Swift on Thursday. It is a brutal spot. Again, I will keep y'all updated with who's in, who's out. I'll be updating the rankings on the site constantly. Not only will we be constantly updating the rankings on the site, but also I will make sure that I just inform you in these live streams if you need to make any last minute changes. But when we go through and answer these questions on stream right now, you better believe I'm going to be playing it safe. And if you have somebody that's going in tonight's game, if you're looking at Jaden Reed versus DJ Moore, I'm just going to go ahead. I'm just going to play Jaden Reed. Now, obviously, if you want to get any questions over on flogfantasy.com, just hit the personal advice button over there in the top right corner. You can send in a super message, start set question, trade question, team review, whatever you are wanting. And again, it's answered during the live stream, but sent to you through the site. So you actually don't even need to be in the live stream to ask or receive your question. You're going to get it regardless. But let's go ahead and let's answer this first one for young Pete here. Wide receiver, we are looking at Tyreek, Devonta Smith, Malik Neighbors as the real interesting players. I'm just going to go with Tyreek. And actually, we have some running backs down here in the flex. We have David Montgomery for sure playing tonight. So we're going to get David Montgomery there at running back. You're just going to move Chase Brown down to the flex. But yeah, at this point, I don't want to rely on Kenneth Walker. I mean, I would rather just play David Montgomery this week and just take the safe route with Walker missing practice. Going over to Drew's question. Says, thanks in advance, Goat. No, thank you, my guys. Super excited to check this out. Here in the flex, we are looking at Tracy Garindo and I guess Keon Coleman. I think you go ahead and I think you take Isaac Garindo here relatively easily. The only thing that I will say is I would really not want to start Adam Thielen myself this week, but obviously you don't really have another option here. You probably just are stuck going with Thielen. If you are looking at Isaac Garindo versus Tracy, I think the amount of opportunities you should expect in both offenses probably a little bit comparable, but I don't know. For me, I just like the projections that you have here with the Niners, projected to win by 3 points, and have an implied team total about a touchdown higher than what you should expect with the Giants offense this week. Mr. Filthy Wubs, always happy to see us, says, 9-4, 18 PPR format. Are we going to go Judy or Ladd rest of season? If Ladd was fully healthy, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take Ladd McConkey. Obviously, this week, it may be a little bit of a tougher spot given the fact that Ladd is banged up, plus it's a tough matchup. But I would go Ladd. There's more passing volume in Cleveland, but Ladd has a much higher market share number in his own offense. Now, Elijah Hampton says, Evans, Hall, Walker questionable. We don't know who to start. Yes, all three of these players missed practice. So I would definitely play it safe if you have anybody going tonight. If Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker both play, I'd go Breece. going down to wide receiver, assuming that Evans is good to go, I'd play Evans here. But the thing is, you probably play it safe with this many options potentially missing. You have no Romeo Doubs, so I think you just play Jaden Reed, knowing that he'll be good to go tonight. And if Evans is good to go, you play Evans at receiver. Going down to the flex spots, I think we go with Malik Neighbors and Kenneth Walker. But again, if Walker doesn't play, you got to pivot over to Garrett Wilson. And with the amount of players that are missing here, at least practice, I think that makes you probably need to play Jaden Reed, because there's a chance you have no Brees. There's a chance you have no Evans. There's a chance you have no Walker. So I kind of want to just lock in Jaden Reed. That way we have the very clear pivot options with Garrett Wilson, Deebo Samuel, and Tyrone Tracy. I would start them in the order of Wilson, Garindo, Tracy, then probably Deebo. But I think playing Reed tonight will give you a little more flexibility just in case you have any of those guys missing. Okay. I'm going to get to your question. This will be the first one we cover, LB727, in the live stream tomorrow. I just want to make sure that we get to the start sit questions before the game today. Michael Pass coming through with the start sit here at running back. I think you probably plan on going with White and Charbonnet. I know people are insincere. I mean, if Sharp gets the role with a banged up Kenneth Walker, I'd be very excited about that. And then going down to the flex, yeah, there's nobody else that we would be looking at here. Actually, I guess you have Jalen Waddle, but obviously we're not playing Waddle over Judy. Now, Ghost says clinch, but still looking to dominate. Any advice helps. Leggett Wicks over Elijah Moore, question mark. Thanks, Space. Thank you. Let's pull this up. We have Achan Gibbs as very safe plays here at running back. Wide receiver, we have Puka Pickens, very safe plays at wide receiver. I'd probably go with Harrison. And then for me, I don't know. I'd rather play Rico Dowdle. I don't see a world in which we are getting Elijah Moore in here. I don't know if you're asking specifically with the waiver wire. And if you're looking at a roster, Elijah Moore, Dontavian Wicks, Xavier Leggett, I do think it's up to you. Obviously, you do have a bump with both Elijah Moore as well as Dontavian Wicks with the injuries to Tillman and Romeo Doubs. But yeah, I don't think I would start either in this lineup this week. I think you have a really strong play to just go ahead and play Harrison and Rico Dowdle with Dowdle in a good matchup. Now, LJ coming through with a start sit question. Here at wide receiver, I would be going with Jamison Williams. I think Jamison, Rome, Waddle, and Addison are all in a very similar range where you're pretty much just hunting the touchdown, but I'd be more confident in the touchdown being there in Detroit than anywhere else. And then down in the flex, I will go with Garindo. I don't want to rank him exactly where we had Jordan Mason early in the season when you had no McCaffrey, as obviously we haven't seen the workload be the same. So until we actually see it, I think that it will be a tough spot to just go all in and say Garindo is a locked and loaded RB1. But I don't know. I think you play him over the wide receivers or you're just hoping you get a touchdown. Here for Dynasty Lord, we are going to go with Kyler over Caleb. Wide receiver, we have no Josh Downs this week. We have Neighbors banged up a bit versus Garrett Wilson and Jerry Jeudy. I would go with, this is plan A here. Plan A is to more likely than not take the combo of Malik Neighbors at wide receiver. We're going to go Tucker Kraft at tight end for tonight. We're going to play it safe, obviously. With no Romeo Doubs, I think you get a slight bump up with the targets going over to the tight end position. Going down to what we have with Ridley versus Garrett Wilson, I think that, I'm sorry, not Ridley, Jerry Jeudy versus Garrett Wilson. I think this is the main thing that you have to go back and forth with. If you have no Tillman, I probably go Jeudy. If Tillman plays, I'd probably go Wilson. But also, you probably need to have that wide receiver as a backup option anyway, to pivot in for either Malik Neighbors or Kenneth Walker down there in the flex, just in case either guy ends up missing this week. Now, Nick Sava coming through quarterback. I'm going to go Kyler over Justin Herbert very easily if this is a 4-point passing touchdown format where you do have an absolute brutal matchup specifically for Herbert. I'm going down to the flex positions. I think you're going to go with Brian Thomas and Marvin Harrison. I'd not be starting Nick Chubb over these guys in a full PPR format. And the only situation in which we change this is if you end up having no Breece Hall And if you have no Brees, then I think you pivot from Brian Thomas to Braylon Allen. Now, Eric coming through with the start sit question. Here at wide receiver, we're going to go with Tyreek Puka Nacua. Tight end, we are going to be taking... I would probably go K-Dot over Laporta. I have them ranked back-to-back, but honestly, I do think it's up to you. And then running back, I believe, Aaron Jones and Garindo ranked back-to-back here as well. Let me just double check. Obviously, we'll get up the updated flex rankings tomorrow. But I had Aaron Jones at 17 and Garindo at 18 in our running back ranks this week. Obviously, it's concerning with the Aaron Jones fumbles this past week with the usage actually trending a little bit away from him. I don't necessarily know if we can say that Aaron Jones is very easily the play. But for me, where you do have the Vikings favored by about 5 points, I think they're probably able to run the ball, and you do have some upside with Aaron Jones as a receiver as well. Don't Texas My Colorado says, quarterback, running back, flex dilemma. Must win for the playoffs. I can't tell what the quarterback position is. I'm very sorry. Let me look you up with a free start sit question just so you can send in that quarterback one. I'd be happy to take a look at it for you. Here at running back, I would go with Aaron Jones over Najee Harris myself, and I have Najee personally, so I hope I'm wrong. And I would go with Tyreek, assuming that he is healthy and good to go for this weekend as well. So, yeah, but I hooked you up with that free start sit question, so definitely send me the updated version with that quarterback. But JB coming through here. We need 2 receivers. We are looking at DJ Moore banged up. I would go with Harrison. I mean, against Seattle, you did have very disappointing performance for Kyler and Harrison 2 weeks back. But still, you see a career high amount of targets for Marvin Harrison this past week. Maybe, just maybe, he has turned the corner. And then I think between Hopkins, DJ Moore, Calvin Ridley, plan A is to go ahead and take DJ Moore. But if you were to get DJ Moore missing, I think you pivot over to DeAndre Hopkins, which DJ Moore did miss practice today. So that will be something to continue to monitor. Big Route says, should we start Gainwell over Hubbard this week? I don't know if you're joking with me, my friend, but assuming Barkley and Hubbard are both good to go, then no, there's no world in which you do this. You do go ahead and you start Chuba Hubbard. I will say it's a very tough spot. It's a very bad matchup for Hubbard. But still, I think you got to get him in. But let me go ahead and refresh this. It looks like these are the only 5 questions in the queue, so I actually should be able to get to this roster review for LB727. Red Zone Riz says, we lost CMC and Jordan Mason. At least he got Grindo. For me, I'm an idiot, so I'd go with Pacheco over Grindo this week. I mean, I said to start Pacheco last week, and it was a horrible, horrible mistake, which I apologize for. But you have another 9-day break between the 2 games. Wide receiver, I think we're going to go ahead. We're going to take JSN and Cooper Kupp. Down here at tight ends, I would be going with, honestly, I would just... Tucker Kraft, Evan Ingram are very tough because they are the exact opposite players. Kraft, you're excited about the upside that you have with touchdowns and a good offense, but you're not going to have the guaranteed target volume. Evan Ingram, you have the guaranteed targets, but the offense is crap. Full PBR format, you probably go Ingram. And then down here in the flex, I think you just take the starting running back in San Fran. But again, I do want to be on record. I'm not as high in Garindo as we were with Jordan Mason, just because with Jordan Mason, we had seen it previously, or we haven't seen it with Garindo. Now, Blank says, wide receiver, we have St. Brown, NWI, Nick Westbrook, Akine, and then the bench/flex, Rico, Ferguson, handcuffs. So we need a wide receiver desperately. If you're telling me Nick Westbrook, Akine is our number 1 guy, you are in trouble. So here's how I'm viewing this. London and Puka, lateral move, up to you. I have them ranked legitimately back-to-back. I'm not viewing this in any type of way there. We're effectively trading away Tyreek Hill and Bo Nix to get Jalen Hurts. If you need a win right now and you don't have a viable quarterback with Bo Nix on bye, I'm completely fine with you going and getting the Jalen Hurts side. Obviously, if you're looking at the fantasy playoffs, I mean, we can say at least over the past few games, there hasn't been a massive gap, actually, between the combo of Bo Nix and Hurts. So if you were just ranking these options for the fantasy playoffs, I think it's probably tougher to go through and tell you to trade away both Tyreek and London here with how good Bo Nix is playing. And the fact that if you're having to rely on Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, I think you're probably in a spot where we still do need to focus in on wide receiver. Now, so Rom coming through, always happy to see you. Hope you're doing well, mate. With Lamar on bye, we got to pick between Stafford, Levis, Geno, or Carr. Great choices, I know. I think you probably end up having to go ahead and take Matthew Stafford here. I'm definitely not excited about Stafford given the matchup that you have. I actually started Stafford over the past 2 weeks, but I will be pivoting off Stafford this week. I don't want to play him against Buffalo, so I'll be going with Brock Purdy instead. But I mean, comparing him to those other options, I definitely think he's a better choice. I mean, he has been great since you've had Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp back into the offense. Wide receiver, we're going to go ahead. We're going to take Harrison and Addison. Tight end, we are going to go with Dalton Kincaid if he does play. And then we're going to just take Rico Dowdle down there in the flex with Dowdle having a great matchup against Cincy. Now, Jalaric coming through says, must-win playoff week. 1, don't ask how that happened. Are we going to go Worthy or Ingram at the flex? Brutal. So if you only need one flex spot, dear God, we're having to start Alexander Madison and Gus Edwards. Okay, here's the God honest truth, my friend. Start packing your bags. Tell your league mates that it's been a good ride. Tell them that it's been a good season. Tell them you've had a lot of fun. And tell them that you'll be back next year with a vengeance. But if this is a must-win week for us, and our starting lineup includes Gus Edwards, Alexander Madison, and Brian Thomas, it probably ain't happening. Now, hopefully we are going up against another team that has a bunch of players on bye. That would be great. But down here in the flex between Xavier Worthy and a tight ends, can I see what the Underdog Pick'ems have? I never, and I repeat, ever want to be flexing a tight end here. But Worthy has just been such an inconsistent option. Worthy, higher, lower, 41.5 total yards, 1.8x to get a touchdown. Ingram, higher yardage mark, less likely to score the TD. Tucker Kraft, more likely to score the TD, lower yardage mark. If it is a full PPR format, I think you probably just go ahead and take Evan Ingram, knowing that the cheap reception should be there. But again, I would really prefer not to. And I am not excited about it whatsoever. Let me refresh this and see if we have any more questions on the site. We do have 2 more coming in from Pence. Here it's a start sit where, again, I think you play it safe with Brees missing practice. But we do have Braylon Allen as an easy pivot. So we're going to play it on Brees. And if you had no Brees Hall, I think I'd probably play Braylon Allen over these other backs, to be honest. Wide receiver, we go with Puka and Ladd. If Ladd plays, you pivot to Harrison if he doesn't. And then down in the flex, we're going to go with Aaron Jones. But again, the very clear pivots that you have is here at running back. If you have no Brees Hall, you go with Braylon Allen instead. And here at wide receiver, if you have no Ladd McConkey, you go with Marvin Harrison instead. Now, Dez coming through with the start set. Wide receiver, we have no Nico. For me, I think I probably plan on Harrison. Again, Harrison's been wildly inconsistent. Very disappointing this past week. 2 weeks ago against Seattle. And obviously, that's the same matchup that you have this week. But with that being said, you do see the career high 12 targets a week ago. So maybe he's a little more interesting here. Over at tight ends, We're looking at K. Dotton versus Sam Laporta. I have answered this question 1,000 times this way, and I am very much worried that I'm going to be wrong and everybody's going to come at my neck this time next week. But for me, for somebody who has Sam Laporta everywhere, I go with K. Dotton. You still have no Godwin, of course, so I do think you still have a spot where you probably get the bump in target volume. You look at Laporta, he saved some of my underdog teams last week with the 2 receiving touchdowns, but the man had a whopping, and I mean a whopping, 6 receiving yards. So I don't know how I can tell anybody to play Sam Laporta here. Going down to the 2 flex spots, we have Dowdle in a good matchup. And I'd probably go with Juwan Jennings with this being a full PPR format. I am concerned about the Hubbard usage, as well as the fact that you do have a very tough matchup against Philly. But we only have 4 more minutes, so TaylorMade, I'm not going to get to this team review right away just because we would be rushed. So let me answer some of the questions that we have in the chat. Please, if you have any questions, drop them. Solid Jagan says, Laporta, I literally have this same situation on my team. We've had a bunch of people ask this. I'll go through and I'll pull up what the projections are on Underdog at the moment. You have Sam Laporta higher, lower, 41.5 receiving yards. You have K. Dotton higher, lower, 45.5 receiving yards. So honestly, Underdog does agree with us here. They have K. Dotton as the better play as well. But let's move this over. Lucas says, start Tajay Spears or Jonathan Brooks. I would rather not start either guy. If I had to go with one, I personally would go Jonathan Brooks. Can I say that it's a great call? Can I say that it's an easy decision? Of course not. But I guess both offenses are really... I just think that if both are kind of operating in a... I don't know. If both are operating as secondary running backs and bad offenses, I think the roles are very comparable. However, for me, I think Jonathan Brooks is the better player. Now, of course, hook 'em horns. I am very biased in saying that. So should you listen to me? I don't necessarily know, but it's what I would do. Harry says, Judy or Juwan Jennings? I would go with Judy. The King says Montgomery or Bucky Irving. Bucky Irving missed practice. So for me, if we knew that Bucky Irving was going to play, I would rather have Bucky Irving over David Montgomery. But obviously the tough call on this is you have to make the call with Montgomery right now. Whereas if you're looking at Bucky Irving, he's not playing until Sunday. So if you think Bucky plays with how good the matchup should be going up against the Raiders, I'm going to go with Bucky, but you can't go wrong playing it safe with Montgomery. Dylan says, what's your opinion on Moore and Walker this week? I don't know. Both missed practice today. If you have no Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet is good to go, 100% you got to play Charbonnet. And if you have no DJ Moore, I think there's no way in hell you could ever look to play Caleb Williams. And I think you do get a bump up with Keenan Allen in that instance. Jay Funk says, Tank Bigsby or Kareem Hunt. Assuming that ETN's good to go, you for sure go with Kareem Hunt. I'd way rather have the running back 2 in a committee in KC than the running back 2 in Jacksonville. And I have a bunch of Tank Bigsby and Underdog drafts. So, I mean, what would really set me up to win a ton this year is to get ETN shut down and to have Tank Bigsby giving us a spike week in weeks, either week 15, 16, or 17. I'm not greedy. I'll just take one big week for Bigsby. Help me out a ton. Okay. Oscar says Hawkinson or Laporta. I would go with Hawkinson over Laporta myself. I hope I'm wrong with that. Again, I have a ridiculous amount of Sam Laporta, and I have Laporta going in the flock league tonight. What I need in the Flock League tonight is I need Laporta to have a big game. I need Jameson and Gibbs to have and Christian Watson to have a poor performance. I have a bunch of people going in my matchup. It is a little bit nerve-wracking, but hopefully we can pull it out. But much love, ladies and gentlemen. I really appreciate you. Really hope I was able to help you out in some way. And I will be live streaming, of course, after the game, talking about what happened. So really hope I get to see you there.